Hello, my name is Aaron Bortz. I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was raised in Reform Judaism, and all of my teachers were rabbinical students at Hebrew Union College. They were very fine quality men. They taught a lot of ethics and morals and also Jewish history. Then I also had to take Hebrew as well, which wasn't as much fun. But at any rate, that was my basic education in my Jewish faith, and grew up in a pretty much Jewish neighborhood, so most of the kids I knew were Jewish, particularly in elementary school. Then I went to high school. 20% of my graduating class was Jewish. I always heard things about Jesus, but I thought that Jesus is for the Christians, and the 5 books of Moses and the prophets in the Old Testament are for the Jewish people. So I really didn't have much understanding of Christianity or what it was. At the age of 14, I managed to be at Marty Chernoff's house. And Marty was a missionary to the Jews. He was introduced to me by my sister. And I was in his living room, and he had a Christmas tree, which I always liked Christmas trees, but this one had Mogen Davids all over it. And I thought that was kind of odd, and I think Marty recognized that I thought it was odd, and he told me that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. Well, it was the first thing about Jesus I'd ever heard that made sense. So I pretty much left it there. I was much more interested in being popular in school, being in theater and choral programs and things like that, and being popular and being in a specific Jewish fraternity. All of those things were important to me, and that's really what I pursued. Not much of a pursuit of God. I went to college for 1 year, and I fooled around completely, which meant I wasn't in college anymore after my first year. And at that time, in 1967, you would have the draft looking you right in the face. And I decided to go ahead and enlist in the military, and I did. I was in the Army for 3 years. Generally speaking, when I was overseas and many other places, I was the only Jewish person in the area. And I tried to blend as best as I could, but I was still a little different. And sometimes the guys enjoyed it. When I was in basic training, I'd go to services on Friday night. You're always hungry in basic training, and they would have oneg after the service. And I'd get some sandwiches, and I'd take them back to the guys in my unit. So they were all very interested in me going to services and being a good Jew so I could bring back sandwiches for them. I then came back to the United States. I would read a book called Dear and Glorious Physician, which actually presented the apostles as Jews, and that kind of got my attention. I was driving back and forth between Cincinnati and Ashland, Kentucky. It was a 3-hour ride. There wasn't much to do but listen to the radio, and I heard a man preaching that sin was anything out of the will of God, and that made sense. That meant that I was a sinner because I knew I was out of the will of God. So with all of these things coming into my mind, I was working with a man who was our lieutenant. He was very intelligent, and quite frankly, I was not used to someone being highly schooled and intelligent who really took the Bible seriously. His name was Larry McQuinn. He was a Southern Baptist from Texas, and I knew he was smart. And he'd try to witness to me once in a while, and I could usually back off. But one time we sat in his office, and we were starting to talk about things, and it turned to the Bible. And he looked at me and he said, well, I really don't care what you think you know about the Bible. If you don't know Jesus, you can't know God. Well, of course, I was extremely mad when he said that. I was offended. I thought to myself, who is this goyim telling me about God? After all, aren't we the chosen people? But it still hurt, and it still hit in a place that it needed to hit. And it's just Romans 11 all the way. Paul said he magnified his office to the Gentiles because he wanted to, through that, maybe win some of his own through jealousy. And that's what was going on in my mind. So I really had to go home and simply ask God to reveal to me if Jesus was the Messiah. If he was, I wanted to serve him because I knew I didn't really know God the way I was of the opinion that I needed to. And God revealed to me that Jesus was the Messiah, that I was a sinner, and I needed him in my life. And so I accepted him. And to add to that, I was in my car driving somewhere, on the interstate, actually going about 75 miles an hour, and suddenly I was hit in the chest with something. It was actually, when you think about it, sounds like Jeremiah 31, where God wrote his law on my inward parts, and suddenly I just didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. I knew him personally. He introduced himself to me. He shook my hand. He shook me. And so I was definitely on my way to starting to grow in him. Larry gave me a book called The Paraphrased Epistles by J.B. Phillips, and that's the first thing I read, not the New Testament as such, the Gospels. And I remember looking in Romans, I believe it was chapter 1, where it says that a true Jew is not one outwardly, which I was very concerned with as a kid, but one inwardly. And that's what God did for my life. I went back to college. I bumped into Jeff Adler and Marty Chernoff and Joel Chernoff and David Chernoff and so many other these Jewish kids. Of course, I didn't think that they believed the same way I did. I thought that, well, no Jewish people really believe the way I do. That's the same thing that most Jewish people say after they know the Lord in their first experience. But I found out they did. So I was able to grow there at Beth Messiah. I was able to just gobble up the New Covenant completely, the scriptures, everything, and then relate it back to the Tanakh, and God really blessed me. I'm a Messianic rabbi with a congregation in Louisville, and I'm not done with my life in Yeshua, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, and I hope that you all take this to heart and think about it, and look and ask God to show you if Yeshua is the Messiah. He will not disappoint you.